Hello class, today we're going to talk about understanding integers, locating, comparing, and ordering on the number line. And here are the learning targets. First, locate integers on the number line and describe their positions in relation to 0. 2. Compare integers using relational symbols less than, greater than, or equal to based on their positions on the number line. Third, order integers from least to greatest or vice versa. Now let's have some key terms and definitions essential for our topic today. First, we have integers. Integers are whole numbers and their opposites, including 0. So if we're going to write it through a roster notation, including ellipsis, so we're going to write it like this. Now, our ellipses here again signify the negative infinity and the positive infinity, which means that the numbers before -2 include -3, -4, and the numbers go on until the last number unknown. That's why we have to consider it as infinite. Same goes with the numbers after +2, which we have 3, 4, 5, and that goes on to forever. Now, remember that negative numbers here are numbers less than 0. So that means the numbers from here going to negative infinity, and positive numbers are numbers greater than 0. So from here to positive infinity. Now, you should remember that in comparing numbers, we have symbols like greater than and less than. When talk about greater than, that means that one number is larger or bigger than the other. That means for less than, it shows that one number is smaller than the other. Also, for ordering numbers, we need to know the difference between ascending and descending. So when we talk about ascending, it means that it is from least to greatest. That means descending is from greatest to least. Another key term also that we need to know is what we call opposites. So it just involves the positive and the negative value of such number. So if you write here 3 or +3, that means its opposite is -3. If you have -10, its opposite is +10. However, if you write 0, there is no such thing as opposite to this because 0 is a neutral number. It is neither positive nor negative. Next here we have an illustration of what a number line is. A number line, okay, let me write it here. A number line is a straight line with points that represent integers at equal intervals. So just like with -1 and 1, from 0, it is always based on 0 when it comes to intervals. So 0 to -1 and 0 to 1. The interval or the jump from 0 to -1 and 1 is just 1 unit. Same goes with 0 to -2 and 2, so we have 2 units for them. 2 and 1, 2. And also with 3, so 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Now let's go back to opposites again. So if we have negative 1 on the left side of 0, that means we also have a positive 1 on the right side. And since we're done with the key terms and definitions, let's have the part A of today's lesson, locating integers on the number line. So if you are given locating negative 2, 0, and 3, we could shade them on the number line. So here it is obvious that negative 2 is here, 0 is here, and 3 is here. So you don't need to be confused on which side they're in, because first negative 2 is negative, so it should be on the left side of 0, and 3 is a positive number, so it should be on the right side of 0. And since 0 is the middle number, or the neutral number, then obviously it is the middle one. So we get to know that these are the locations of each number. And that's it for the first one. Next is to locate negative 5, 2, and 4. Based on the given numbers, we have 1 negative and 2 positive numbers. So since in our number line here, we just stopped at negative 4 on the left side of 0, so we're gonna extend. So I'll just erase part of this here and extend our number line. So now we have negative 5. So it's easy for us to shade or label this time. So I have here for negative 5, and for 2, and for 4. Last one is when you are going to identify. So identify the integer or integers, perhaps, between negative 2 and 1. So base here, we know that this area or this part is negative 2 and this is 1. That means the numbers between them are negative 1 and 0. So this is what we are looking for. And that ends our part A of today's lesson. For part B is about comparing integers. In comparing integers, we get to use the symbols less than, greater than, or the equal sign. Now, we need to go back to the number line. Now, on the number line, we need to remember that the numbers that are negative will always be less than the positive ones, which means that if we were to compare 1 versus negative 1 million, despite that this one is 1 million, but the fact that this is negative, 1 will always be greater than this. So 1 is greater than negative 1 million. Again, we are dealing with the numbers from the left side here, to the right side, which means the further the number from 0 or from the positive numbers, which means they're lesser than those compared to the positive ones. So let's have our next example here. So if you are to compare -2 and 3, what do you think is the symbol we're going to use? Greater than, less than, or equal? So again, based on the number line, all positive numbers will always be greater than negative ones. So based on this, 2 is less than 3. Next, we have -5 versus -1. As you can see here, both numbers are negative, but again, let's go back to the number line. Let's have 0 as our last number for now. Zero, -1, -2, -3, -4. Let's just add part on this side. And -5. Based on this, on the number line, again, our basis is from left to right. So the first number that is from the left is -5 over -1, which means that 5 is the smaller number compared to -1. So based on this, we could say that -5 is less than -1. So according to the number line, we could conclude that -1 is the biggest number among the negative integers. Again, -1 is the biggest negative integer. Next, we have here 4 and -6. Again, and as always, on the number line, the positive numbers will always be bigger than the negative, which means that 4 is greater than -6. Easy as that. Now, if you are given this, -8 and -8. So, both numbers are the same, so we could just write -8 is equal to itself. And that's it for the part B in comparing integers. In our last part, or part C, is about ordering integers. Again, we need to know the definition or the difference between ascending versus descending. For ascending, it is from least to greatest, and descending is the opposite of it. It is from greatest to least. So here's our first one. So arrange -2, arrange -2, 3, and 0 in ascending order. So based on this, going back to the number line, it is from the left to right, or from negative numbers to 0 to the positive numbers, which means that since we're asking for the ascending order of the numbers here, so we're gonna write -2, 0, and 3. Now, how about this one? So we have 5, -1, and 4 in a descending order. So again, this is descending order, so greatest to least. So if our smallest number in a least to greatest or ascending order is from the negative to 0 to positive numbers, this time, since it is descending, we need to cater the biggest number to the least one. So it is from positive to 0 to negative numbers. So based on this, the biggest number that we could see is positive 5. So we need to write 5 first. And then the number that is next or lesser than 5 is 4. That means we are left with negative 1 as the smallest number. Now let's have here last example. So number 3, we have the numbers negative 9, 3, 1, negative 4, and negative 7 in an ascending order. So since this is in an ascending order, it should be from least to greatest. So from negative to 0 to positive numbers. So based on this, on the number line, the smallest number is negative 9. So we're gonna write it now. So negative 9. The next number that is bigger than negative 9, because again, when it comes to number line, it is from left to right. So if we get to have negative 9, negative 8, negative 7, so we don't have negative 8, but we have negative 7, so we write negative 7 here. After negative 7, we have negative 4. And of course, the first or the smallest positive number or positive integer is 1. And next to 1, we have 3. So this is the answer, or this is the order of the given numbers. And that's it for today's lesson. We have 3 parts. So parts A to C. For part C, ordering integers. For part B, we have comparing integers. And part A is locating integers on the number line.